Ladies and gentlemen, that's him. That is Matt Powers on your screen right now, thepermaculturestudent.com, Matt Powers. The powers of permaculture with Matt. How the heck are you, Matt?
I'm doing amazing. And it's so great to be here. It's so great to catch up with you and be back on here with everyone.
Yeah, it's like it's been a while, but you've been busy working on that successful, what was it, an Indiegogo or was it what was it? Kickstarter. Yeah, we did it. We had a
It was a Kickstarter.
very
Yeah.
successful Kickstarter, and you had to make tons of videos and write a book, or what did you have to do over the winter? Tell people.
I I am in the middle of writing that book still, but I've had incredible insights that have rewritten all my other books in many ways. And it's been this cascading of realizations, not just the way like the soil functions, but the way our digestion, the way plants function, the way our world works. So regenerative soil is really a linchpin that I've been able to draw together this holistic understanding of soil that's never been articulated. And it's all the way to the cutting edge, and it ties into some of the oldest ways that we've worked with soil at the same time. And it's pragmatic. I mean, I'm getting all the chemistry, I'm doing all the visuals so we can actually see what these things are in real life. And then I'm making the recipes. Because no matter how complicated, an industry you're part of, when it gets down to the actual actions, it's always a recipe. So, so yeah, and it's basically I have a month and a half left of writing, and then it's gonna be launching. The course is gonna quickly follow, and yeah, it's been absolutely incredible. And I've been working on this 90 plus acre site in California that is absolutely just flipping right over. I mean, it's gone from devastation, degradation to regeneration and abundance in such a short period of time. So I'm documenting and videoing, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, guys. So if you want to know more about what Matt's been doing, come check out his YouTube channel, Matt Powers, the permaculture student. There will be links below. And I mean, he's done some amazing things. Not only that, he's talking about other topics like permaculture's response to the pandemic. And someone asked me a question today, Matt. They were like, can I use non-native plants in my permaculture garden? And I started to laugh because and then I just sent them a general description of the permaculture principles because I think people get lost. They think permaculture has to do with growing, and that's a part of it because abundance and growing is part of what we do in utilizing permaculture. But I think that you make it abundantly clear that permaculture is more than growing. It starts at the core. It's a set of principles on how to live and also how to learn by observing. And this doesn't have to just give you insight into your plants. It gives you insight into capturing water, insects, how people live and how they act, how they interact with nature. And that's just the cusp. And then it goes on, and you can use these principles in every aspect of your life. Do you want to extrapolate a little bit more on that?
You're absolutely correct. Oh yeah. I mean, when we look at the basement, the bare bones, the bottom floor, it's earth care, people care, and future care. And when we get down to what people want, that's what we want. We want to be able to leave the world a better place by being here. We want to live abundantly. We want to have a deeper relationship and connection with the world around us. We want to live meaningfully. And we absolutely can do that. We can't do it through the systems of degradation and degeneration that we've seen, that have tried to foist us, box us, and strangle who we are as human beings. But there's this new emerging model where people realize that this triple bottom line is the key to meaning, is the key to our health. when we last spoke, I think we were speaking about Shinrin Yoku, um, and or that I don't know if that's even the correct words, but forest bathing, and this idea that when we create these systems, something happens within us that changes our health, changes our perspective, and it opens doors that were shut, and we're seeing it more and more in the research, in the practice, in the homesteads, in the gardens. People are seeing that they can take steps. They can use permaculture, the new form, as a new form of common sense, and that's really what I teach is common sense that you would have learned if you grew up in a culture that had these values in it for generations.
Yeah, and those values you can see right here at your Twitter page, Matt Powers at permaculture123. He actually follows me, so that brings a smile to my face. Thank you, Matt. Um, and you write here forging a regenerative future through education, empowerment, and partnering with nature through permaculture. Because inevitably, if you get into permaculture, the plants will draw you in. The soil will bring you and keep you there. Nature knows how to get you involved. You just have to try it for a second and you'll be hooked. It's almost like the microbiome in your gut connects with the mycorrhiza somehow subliminally, and they want you out there. And then you yearn for that. Now, once you get that bug and you yearn to get your fingers dirty, most people don't know anything about plants. And the next thing that happens is education. You have to educate yourself. You want to know about what's growing. What are these weeds? What's this plant? What's that bug? And then it literally becomes, for me, right, an obsession. And then you take it to the next level. And that's the empowerment. You can take control of your health, your wealth, and your life through permaculture. You increase your life force simply by eating the pure food and the food, like you said that the seeds that I bought from Baker Creek, because I bought some of these Aztec spinach seeds, were your seeds. I didn't know that. And that is the types of connections that are revealed through permaculture. It's absolutely amazing what's happening. And guys, if you're listening, Matt and I are going to be giving away some seeds on this podcast live. And we're going to be asking some questions later and talking about them. So we're pretty excited about that. Do you want to talk about your website real quick for people that aren't aware of it and the free downloads? Let's get to that.
Absolutely. The reality is most of us have not had a chance to even scratch the surface of what permaculture is. They see these words, they see gardening things, but this is a human right. So I've made gardening courses, I've made permaculture video courses and series, and I've even made an audiobook version of my largest book, which is over 400 pages long, The Permaculture Student 2, and that's on YouTube. So you can listen to the audiobook for my most popular, largest, most advanced book on YouTube, or you could, or in addition, you could go to thepermaculturestudent.com and download it. This book, I believe it's a human right to know this. And so I want to share it with everyone so that we can start implementing these things, these changes, these solutions, these empowerment paths in our communities, taking back our local economies, our bioregions, making our soils rich and amazingly fertile, and capturing our own water, cleaning our water. All of it can be done in a natural, regenerative way that just builds the fertility and the water holding capacity of the landscape around you. And it's not something that's strictly left to a certain bioregion. This is something that's open to everyone, everywhere. That's why it's permanent, permaculture, right? We're not leaving. We're here to stay. We're here to make things better. And that's probably the most hopeful message of permaculture, is that we're not that story that we're these degenerative, like, cancer upon the world, the Matrix story, isn't true about us being a parasite. No, no, no. We are just stewards that have forgotten our way. We just got off the path. And if we just get back on the path, nature responds like nothing else. And you'll be able to see these examples. You'll be able to see these regenerative solutions in the book, in the videos, and there's so much stuff that's there for you to just get started, to just start putting these solutions into actions. There's recipes, there's how-to. If you're at home with the kids, there's even homeschool curriculum. There's adult education, there's certification. I've got everything there.
Matt, you're the bomb. And I don't think that we made this abundantly clear. Folks, this 400-page book is free. Free. You want to hold it up again, the book, so they can see the gigantic repository of free information that they can download right now? They can learn everything about permaculture, cutting edge information that Matt Powers has now. Look at that. It's crazy. I want one. I'm downloading it. Oh, I already did. Okay. You download it too. I want you print it out, take it out in the garden with you. And that's what we're getting at. And I just did a podcast, a few this week, where I am telling the people we've scaled up our food production tenfold, not to go to the farmer's market and rip people off, not to go to the farmer's market and undercut the next farmer, but we're going to be giving the food away to people that need it. Because this summer, we live in a town where over 60% of the people they don't get the correct nutrition. Can you imagine, after the events that have transpired over the last several months, how many more people there are? And if I could just set up a stand and be allowed to do that in town once or twice a week and give away 400 or 500 pounds of greens and squash, and just enjoy with the people the act of giving. That's part of the permaculture principles, to be able to share the abundance with others. And so that maybe they're like, why are you giving to me this stuff for free? Like, what's the loophole? I can explain to them the loophole is that you are now nourished and I am now happy. And there is no loophole. It is the wheel of abundance and giving. And I tell people, the more that I give to others, the more I receive. And this has never not happened. I don't expect it. I don't want it. But the gifts I receive from giving are always tenfold. These are not fantasies or fairy tales. This is the reality of living a regenerative life, and also the benefits that you never expected. You had a few amazing things happen to you recently. And these are just some of the blessings that we get by simply living harmoniously with nature and trying to educate ourselves by being part of nature. That's all we're doing. We're Shinrin Yoku all day in our own permaculture environment. I mean, literally, our plants talk to us, and they must know that we help them. And so it's symbiotic, and it's beautiful.
I walk around every day all over this land in a redwood forest with pockets of gardens and greenhouses. And invariably, at some point during that day, I've got swarming butterflies around me, and hummingbirds that are coming up and checking me out and letting me know that they know that I'm there, and they know that that I know that they're. And it's this really humbling. What? Oh, yeah. No, actually, I don't really wear red, so that's definitely not it. But I have all these animals continuously interacting with me. I have a tree that was covered in peach leaf curl, like the wilting leaf. It's curling over and rotting, and I was able to treat it with EM, like crushed biochar, and fish emulsion and kelp. I digested that for 3 days with EM, so that it would be all unlocked and all amino acids. And I sprayed it on the plant. And now you go look at the plant, and all the fungally inoculated, pathogenically inoculated leaves are being attacked by a different fungi. And it's this kind of communication where you walk here on the land, the animals, the fungi, the diversity. I mean, I go by a place that I had chopped and dropped, and now there's 3 species that weren't even on the property growing there. And it's like, huh, it feels magic. But I mean, there's all this science behind it. We can always, I can explain it all. You know what I mean? But it takes time, and it's like there's mechanisms and all that. But it doesn't even matter, because the right actions cause all of these cascading, blessings. I mean, these are things that just seem to come out of nowhere, out of the environment, that is so humbling. But that's what nature is. Nature is designed. Nature has been evolved to be in this relationship with us, and we cut ourselves off. We did it. Nature's like, come on, I'm here. Waiting for us to jump back in. And if we just take a step forward, I mean, you'll get 10 steps back from nature. So that's what, I feel right now many people are realizing.
Yeah, the multinational corporations are the ones destroying the planet, not us humans. But what humans have done, the population, we've lost touch with
Yeah.
our connection to Earth. When I grew up in the 70s, everyone in my little modest suburb had a garden. That does not exist today. So something changed in the narrative where the multinational corporations convinced us that we don't need to grow food. It's all in the supermarket, and it's all sprayed with pesticides and everything else that'll make you sick and keep you visiting the hospital and keep everyone rich in their multinational corporation ring. But what people are learning is that I think is a ruse. So what they're learning is that they need to be more self-sufficient, more self-reliant. What we saw in this pandemic, Matt, is that within the first few weeks, the availability of seeds was approaching zero for the home gardener. Some states even banned seeds. Luckily, Baker Creek and other companies have come back
Yeah, what
on.
was that?
Yeah, they came back online. They saw surges in seed sales that were 6 to 10 times never before seen in their history. So this is the population panicking because they lost touch with reality, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that? And let's give away some seeds afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about some sorghum here. I feel that we have this truth. When you hear someone say something and you go, yeah, uh-huh, and you have never heard it before, but when you heard it, you immediately were like, that's right, yeah. That's because you already knew it was true. When we actually don't know something, we hear it and go, that doesn't make sense. I don't get it. When we have a space built within us ready for that truth, that means that a part of us was prepared for that truth, but part of us had a knowing of that possibility or truth. And people are waking up. We all know that having a home garden that's abundant is infinitely desirable. We all know. And the fact that 10 years ago people acted like, no, I can get it from a supermarket, da, 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 and poo-pooed that, those people are now feeling like a cold chill passing over. Like they know that what they said was foolish. And it's because we all know deep down inside that having an abundant garden is wise. And whether we weren't raised that way, whether we never saw examples of it, whether we just fell into that logic that everyone else is not doing it, so I'm not going to do it. Now is the time to wake up, and people are waking up. But I think there's more people that need to wake up to the fact that the best food that can be grown, that you can eat, is food that you grow, that's in your soil, that you created. And that whole system that is collapsing is fragile, and it makes us fragile. This whole system of commodifying nutrition has hollowed us out. And it's time to take that back and be like, no, thanks.
Yeah, you know
We
what?
can take it from here.
Yeah. You know what's sad? And I just thought of this. How many millennials there are that think that a tomato tastes like a pasty crap thing? You know, they never actually tasted a tomato. The tomatoes that you buy in the store, they're not tomatoes. They're factory produced, large scale production, picked early, ripened falsely, and taste like nothing. Nutrition deficient. I mean, it's sad. And so this shift over to abundant, nutrient dense foods that are grown by yourself without any chemical inputs allows you to your brain to explode, the taste buds, the new synapses from the flavors. I mean, we all know what the terpenes do in the cannabis, right? And so these same things are in fruits and vegetables, but they're devoid in the supermarket. You don't get to smell the fruit and it smells delicious. Maybe a cantaloupe still smells good in the supermarket, but that's about it. And that's how you determine if they're ripe, right? They smell like a cantaloupe. And so it's kind of sad how far away we've gotten. You know, how dead humanity is to the production of their what keeps them alive, the food source. Many people in our population, especially in the Western world where we live, Matt, they don't even eat fruits or vegetables. They think they're disgusting. And that's simply because the multinational corporations have won out and they've tricked their taste buds to eat McDonald's or whatever else they eat. And that the vegetables in the supermarket are not good. Now, our new farm manager has never tasted organically grown permaculture foods like we grow here, right? So he's like, oh, I don't like that. When I said, do you like this? He's like, no, I don't like that. I'm like, here, try this. And then he eats it. He's like, oh my God. Like we have certain spinach here. If you grow it in the right light, it actually has increased sugar. So it tastes like spinach candy, where some spinaches taste more earthy. I have these hanging baskets of spinach that are literally like candy, green candy. And I gave him some of that. And he was like, wow. Then I had him try some French sorrel, and I just said lemon, and then he ate it, and he was like, "Wow!" Like these flavors exploding in his mouth. He's been buying fruits and vegetables from the store and living healthy, he thought, but when he tasted these crops that we were growing together, his mind exploded. That's what he was missing out on his whole life: food.
And what we're learning now is that the terpenes, the flavor profile, the medicinal compounds inside plants are often actually endophytic fungi. And so we only get those higher expressions of flavor and medicinal quality, food is medicine, when the plant has a robust biology in the soil and inside of it. And we're learning that sweet potatoes nitrogen fix with their leaves. They have endophytic nitrogen fixing fungi in their leaves. We're learning that all these things are connected directly to our gut. And there's this gut biome project where they're looking at indigenous people's guts and seeing that, the sad, the standard American diet is 10% of the microbiome diversity. And when you're actually eating raw foods, especially flowers, herbs, greens, they fresh from the garden, they have all that and it's good healthy soil, good healthy plants. You're going to be inoculating yourself with a totally different diversity level of biology, and that's the link. That's this great communication link that we create between our bodies and the soil. And when we begin this, it can be absolutely transcendent. But then when you get a few years into this, it's like you can't even have that other food. It's not even food to you. And you've got this great barometer with your body, and you can just tell, either looking at it, maybe tasting it, but when things aren't good for you. And that level of health, that level of self-knowledge really only comes when you are living at a different level than our society can even offer. The wealthiest people can't afford the food that you home cultivate. It's priceless because they have to go out there and do the work themselves. You know what I mean? We are so lucky. We are so gifted with this moment of truth that we can go and cultivate the best food for for so much less money, and it's completely safe. It's under our control. We can do this, and now is the perfect time while we're all on lockdown, right?
Yeah. And Matt, I think we've created a monster. My neighbor who moved in a few years ago, he's really getting his homestead in full swing. The first thing they did was create a gigantic fermentation vat in the front yard where they're mass producing EM1 because of the inspiration from our videos last year. They just bought a simple half gallon. They're mass producing EM1 and inoculating it at the same time with biochar that they're creating in their own type of vessel that they created where they can burn massive quantities of wood that does not light on fire. So they have the maximum output. It's like a gasifier where they're just gasifying the wood to charcoal, and then they're burying it. They're putting in this reishi mushroom spray, covering it in tarps for a week so that the char inoculates itself. Then they're dumping it into the EM1 tank. I mean, it's like all these experiments going on. And it's because of, we need more people just doing stuff to figure out like what we have missed. And like you said, it doesn't cost a lot of money. You just need time. And that's what we have a lot of right now, time. And so these are some of the awesome things. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, and it doesn't take much strength, much energy, much effort on your part, because you could be working with something like this, the seed giveaway we're talking about today. This sorghum, I would throw on the ground on marginalized soil, hardly water it. It would get 6 to 9 feet tall, and the leaves are inedible. So I would use this in thickets around my property to make living walls. So the leaves have cyanide in them, and the deer don't eat them. And when it's a thicket of this, and there's stuff they can eat at the foot of it, they would eat it and like look at the thing and be like, all right, and they would never go through it. So this is a grain. It's gluten free. It's sorghum, but it's also a syrup. The stalk, because it's cousin to sugarcane, can be pressed and you can make syrup out of it. You can boil it down. So you can pop the grain like popcorn. You can grind it like flour. You can cook it up like quinoa, or you can make it. You can actually remove the seed heads before they mature, and that will make all the energy go into the stalk, and the stalk will just be oozing sugars, and bees will come up and lick it. And it's amazing. It's fun. But this is something that's going to put all those sugars equal parts into the ground, because over 90% of a C4 grass, because corn, sorghum, and sugarcane are C4 grasses, goes into the ground. So so they're putting 50% of those sugars into the ground. The soil microbes are eating it up and going nuts, and they're making the soil richer and richer and richer. And then you just chop and drop the body of that plant down and cover it. Oh, it's incredible what happens. You build soil baths with C4 grasses. So this is a soil builder, but it's also something where you plant one of these teeny little seeds and it'll make 5 heads. Bigger than this because this one's a little squashed, but bigger than this, 5 heads off of one teeny seed, marginal soil, not a lot of water. This is a survival crop. This is something that I think is superior to corn in some ways because of all these other features that it has. So this is what we're going to be giving away. And do you want to do the first question?
Yeah, yeah. Is this the Mennonite sorghum that I gave away over 500 vials with about 200 seeds each
Yeah.
in at the San Luis Valley Seed Exchange. People loved it. We kept packing the vials. They kept taking it. Mennonite sorghum. And guys, if you don't know what Matt just said, this creates a deer-proof fence that has cyanide in it. The deer will remember. They will tell their children though they won't come back. Additionally, the amount of biomass to chop and drop from this is insane. And one thing that he didn't mention is you could take the seeds, which are so prolific, cut all the heads off. You can sprout these seeds for 3 to 5 days in a bucket and feed them to your chickens. I mean, this is a diverse plant. We feed our pig sorghum, oats, wheat, all sprouted about 3 days. And it costs us pennies on the dollar compared to organic pig food. Literally pennies. You can make 200 pounds of organic sprouted pig seed food for pennies when you're paying $25 to $50 for a 50-pound bag of actual food, which is the same. It's the same dust of the same seeds swept off the same ground. But you grew it. And so that's amazing. So let's get on with the Mennonite sorghum giveaway. We're going to give away 2 bags from Matt of the Mennonite sorghum. And then I'm going to give away, yeah, there it is. I'm going to give away some heirloom Italian seeds that I have in abundance from Seeds from Italy, one of my favorite seed producers as far as lettuces. Seeds from Italy is a pretty awesome company, and they actually package seeds in the U.S. Are you aware of them?
I think you mentioned them last time. They sound awesome. Italian seeds are like, I think probably 30% of my collection. I love seeds from Italy.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the first seed giveaway for a entire quarter acres worth of Mennonite sorghum. Remember, a single seed produces about 80 to 350,000 additional seeds. Okay, the question is, and the first person to give the answer in the chat to the right, and I'm sorry if you don't have live chat, it's on you. And it's a simple question. Should we start with the simple one first? Yeah. I want you to name me, the first person to do this gets the seeds. What are the 3 sisters? Boom! Go now. All right.
All right.
All right.
All right.
All right. Let's talk about it.
That should. So the 3 sisters are a plant guild that Native Americans used to protect each other and to nourish the land. So they were growing corn, but they wanted to protect the corn, they wanted to protect the soil, and they also wanted to use the corn as trellis. So they planted the 3 sisters, beans, corn, and squash. And squash, of course, can be like a pumpkin patch kind of thing too. But this is a very simple planting that once you get going looks amazing and is nothing but food, because you know that squash leaves or pumpkin leaves and the vines are all edible. Yeah, they're all edible. So the baby squash is summer squash, right? You knew that too, right? That the squash plant was this. The adult squashes are the pumpkins.
Yeah.
You know, are the, you know what I mean, the gourds and all different things. And so if we just let these things grow out, you get in a huge abundance. You can have fresh beans. You can have beans that you dry down and collect the seeds. It's a beautiful way, and also for me, and I think in permaculture at large, is this open-ended question like, what else is like the 3 sisters? What other plant guilds, larger companion planting groups are there? And the great news is there's so many that, like, you know, it's pretty much infinite. At this point, you know, we could mix and match so many amazing combinations of plants, but there are some that are really powerful. And this sorghum is part of the 5 cousins mixture that I use to build soil in the summer and spring. And I use amaranth, sorghum, daikon radish, buckwheat, and cowpeas, and they're all incredibly prolific. It's all about that chop and drop at that end of the season. You collect those seeds, but then you make this huge mat of biomass. And that's also another reason why 3 Sisters is so incredible. You're guaranteeing that you're going to create this incredible soil changeover every year.
Yeah, excellent explanation. But I want to take it to another level and actually describe for the folks how to initiate the 3 sisters. Now, what you first want to do is plant corn. And you want to plant corn when your soil is around 50 degrees or warmer. Or you're going to use some type of row cover like I use, a season extender to keep that soil warm. So you plant out the corn early and you let the corn get 4 to 8 inches. Once it's 4 to 8 inches and the third leaf is real fat, then you go out there with your pole beans or your climbing beans. You can do scarlet runners. You can do the Japanese long bean, any of the amazing climbing beans. You can go with Kentucky Wonder or any, just don't do bush beans because you're missing the point. We need to get these beans up on the corn stalk before the squash comes in. Okay, so the beans go in about 2 weeks, the beans are up and they're crawling up the corn. The corn is now knee high by the 4th of July, and that's when the squash should be planted. When it's really hot, we plant it sometime mid-June or end of June, the squash seeds directly in front of the beans, completely around the corn patch. So the beans are going up the corn, the squash seeds are in. And now by the time the squash sprouts, because it's warm, it's end of June where we are, those leaves just covered all the dirt. And now they're preserving all the moisture. So those big squash leaves around the whole patch are maintaining that moisture, creating the mycorrhiza to flourish under there. And at the same time, the beans are now above the squash, growing ever higher and producing. As soon as the beans start flowering, some of those nitrogen nodules on the bean plant start fixing in the soil, and they're actually providing nutrients to the corn. So you get more vibrant corn in the late season because the beans have fixed nitrogen directly beneath them. This relationship is just the beginning. We're not even talking about the mycorrhiza and the communication between the squash and the bean, and then the bean to the squash, and the squash to the corn, and the corn to the bean, and the bean to the corn, and then the corn back to the squash. Who knows what that conversation is? But I'm sure they're all very happy that they're all together. And then you get that triple. So you get the beans, the early snap beans during the year while you watch your three sisters. Then the corn comes in, and then you get the sweet corn, and then you're picking the squash, and then the dent corn. It is literally a whole summer affair. And a lesbian affair, apparently.
It's something that everyone can do too, and it's something that's big seeds. And the thing with the bigger seeds and the bigger plants are you can fill up an area very quickly and get a lot of food out of it. You can soak some of these seeds, like you can soak the beans, you can soak the corn, and you can jumpstart that so that you can soak it overnight or 8 hours, and then plant them so that they grow faster or start faster. And it's something that goes very big, it's easy to manage, and it has a big effect. Children can plant this entire system. People who can only do certain types of work, for short periods of time, can do this. It's something that is really, really powerful, and that's why it's so enduring. That's why so many of us are doing it, and that's why you can do it too. And you can find the seeds, you can find the area, and just start.
Yeah, you only need a 4x4 square. If you have a 4x4 square, what you do is you plant 25 corn seeds in the central 2 square feet. And you place them about 4 to 6 inches apart in a nice grid. And that's all you need. Then the beans go in inside and outside of those, and the squash on the outside of that. And in a 4x4 area, if you just water it and let it go, literally in the fall, if you forget about it and your corn dries and your squash is, and you planted winter squash, you will have storable winter squash with seeds that will store all through the winter. Your beans might have dried because you didn't have any time, but then you have those beans that you can rehydrate during the winter and make bean soup or any other bean dish. And the corn, if it's dried, you can crush it and grind it and make masa, and you now have cornmeal or corn flour. So especially if you plant a native corn that goes through a sweet corn phase into a dent corn phase, like we're growing here. So you could cover all your bases where you can, if you're there, harvest the sweet corn. But if you're not, because you're busy working and you forget about it all in September, you can still have storable winter squash, dry beans, and dry corn. It's a win-win survival triple combination.
Absolutely. And this is stuff that we all can tweak and add to. You could make people add sunflowers to this mix. Some people add tobacco to this mix because that's an insect factor. And you can you can use this idea to stretch things. You could, instead of it being beans, you could do cowpeas because those climb too. You could tweak these things in a lot of different ways. Instead of corn, it could be sorghum, because they're cousins, and they look exactly alike until you get closer.
Yeah, and a lot I've seen people do cucumber out
So
here as the climber. Cucumber as the climber. And then you can get cukes, corn, and squash.
that's really good. And it doesn't have to be all one thing. Like you could alternate the cucumbers every other with the beans. And you know what I mean? It doesn't have to just be an all or nothing. We can mix it all up and have it be really fascinating looking. You can have certain melons, tiny melons that climb, like rich sweetness 132, and the Tigger melon that's about that big. And you can do it all. The beans are going to provide value though in the nitrogen fixation. So having cowpeas and then mixing it up with melons or cucumbers is good, but to not lose their effect is definitely desirable too.
Yeah, and everyone out there should always remember the cucurbits, all of them, especially the cucumber. These are beneficial to your permaculture animals like chickens and pigs because they're antiparasitic, the seeds. So I save some of my older nasty pickles all through the winter, and they shrivel up into just these shells of skin with seeds inside. And the chickens love them in January. Those seeds are antiparasitic. Cucurbit seeds from all melons and all of those. You want to feed those seeds directly to your farm animals, horses,
Wow.
chickens, pigs, and you never have to deworm them with any of that uh, veterinary science crap because the cucurbit seed is where they derive the actual medicine from. They don't tell you that. And so I eat, we all eat pickle seeds, don't we? We all eat the cucumber seeds. So those of us that are eating the fresh cucumbers obviously don't have parasites, and other things that are natural like chicory root, excellent antiparasitic, and licorice root. And it's on and on. So these are the things we learn as we go with permaculture. I mean, and it's fascinating and it blows your mind because we don't need those corporations. We just need nature, but we need the knowledge, and that's the key. And that's why we're here tonight, right? That's why we're talking.
Yeah, and it really is that empowering. It really is like this system that's collapsing, this system that failed us. We don't need. And we can write a new story. It can be with our family, it can be with our neighborhood, it can be with our local community and bioregion. And now's the time. This is the moment where we're having the opportunity to write this new story, to embark on this new chapter of our lives. And I'm ready for it. I'm excited for it. I'm planning. I mean, right before we talked, I was out there with my scythe, scything down these grasses and clearing this area. And I mean, I'm ripping out gravel with that row cover, not row cover. It's weed matting below everything, and it's awful to a lot of people. You know what I mean? They're like, I can't, like, it's a gardener's like biggest nightmare. Some people say, but for me, I just feel so good, so energized, opening things up and then planting seeds and seeing the soil go from like, slate gray or pale tan to dark, rich, brown,
Pale
black.
tan.
And yeah, and then seeing like plants come up and seeing like instead of like the usual like one or two coming off like dozens of flowers coming off the fava bean in these clusters and chains. And it's like, that's what it's about. It's about this a completely new level of living, of expression, of partnership, of being like, I did that.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're putting out this thing that's going to change your life, going to change the world around you, and it's all yours. You didn't buy it from Amazon. It didn't come in the mail. This is your victory. This is your relationship. And that's the thing, it's a relationship. It's not something you can buy in a store. It's not, you know what I mean? And it's our birthright because we're human. And when you start on this path, there's a knowing that begins. You start instinctually, you start observing more and more, and start listening more and more. You start doing things after this prolonged observation that permaculture is really based on. You know, that's one of our top principles. And you start doing things that maybe don't make perfect sense. And then a week later, you're like, oh my word, look at that. That peach leaf curl wilt is now being eaten by other fungi, curing the tree of a disease that they chop limbs off. They chop limbs off the trees to protect them from this thing. But it's listening to the actual dialogue between yourself and the landscape that guides us and cures us and strengthens us and heals us and takes us on a new path, a new journey that is nothing like anything that I thought my life would be in the 90s,
Yeah.
in the early 2000s, even 5 years ago. Permaculture has taken me on a journey. And I say permaculture, but I might as well say nature, because it's nature that we're really learning from. Permaculture is like mathematics, right? Mathematics, if mathematics didn't exist, would the math of the universe still exist? Of course it would. You know what I mean? So it's like that's what permaculture is. It's our human word for our relationship and integration with nature. But that's the teacher.
Yeah,
Nature's the teacher, and you and all of us who are like, yeah.
I like to say that it is. I like to say that it's the language of nature. And you've inspired me. Listen,
Absolutely.
so if you're out there listening, earlier in Matt's little rant there, he talked about the yellow soil, you know, that brown, the light tan. You know there's nothing in it. And then if it gets dry enough, it actually becomes cement. So this is an opportunity to get some more of these seeds. And I'm going to say not just Mennonite sorghum, but any form of amaranth. If you get that little black seed to sprout in that cement, that terrible soil, that yellow clay, or if it sprouts in there and it just has a chance and it develops beyond an inch, that thing will grow 6 feet high with no nutrients. It will actually suck nitrogen from the air, and that's what these plants do. They can grow in a desert environment where they're indigenous from and where they were cultivated originally. I mean, all the books in the Bible and the amaranth. We all know about the amaranth. This is coming from the Fertile Crescent near the equator. And these are arid desert environments with devoid soils, almost no soil profile, a half inch, quarter inch. So you need to get these seeds. If you have a yellow backyard and you live in Texas and you've never grown anything, throw the sorghum down, rake it in a little bit and get it wet. Keep it wet for a month, and your mind will be blown. Chop and drop it. The next year, your soil will change color. You're going to have fungus growing. You're going to start learning, and you will be inspired by what you see. All right, second question, Matt. What was the question?
The second question was a harder one,
Yeah, I remember.
and it was, you remember.
Yeah. You want me to do it?
I forgot.
All right. The first,
Please do.
okay, here we go. This is a harder question. If you need these Mennonite sorghum seeds now. Okay. The first person to answer with any correct crop wins the next set of seeds. And what we're looking for, Matt and I, because we're about to talk about it, we're about to talk about many of you live like where I live, Zone 5A. We have a big gap in food production. I want you to name a hunger gap crop. Go. First one, and we will locate it. Hunger gap crop. Boom. I think we got it. All right, Matt. What is a hunger gap crop? And on
Awesome.
Wikipedia, it's called a hungry gap crop.
So every family, all of our families, all of our ancestors would save up food for the time period, whether it was winter or a dry season, where they had to just survive on the food they saved in their environment. And at the end of that season, there was usually this time frame where things got tight, where there was a gap between your food storage running out and the spring bringing you more food. And in this gap, there are certain crops that grow even if it's going to get frosty every night, even if it gets a little snow on it. And you've heard of these probably, but you probably haven't thought about them in this way. So these are the early spring. These are the late winter crops that can hold on or start really early. These are hunger gap kale. These are turnips and radishes. This is peas and fava beans. And these are incredibly fast growing plants. So you get them in the ground and a week and a half later, you can eat this sprout. You can eat this microgreen. 2 weeks later, you've got, serious leaves. A month later, you're pulling your crop and eating it. So it's really incredible. It's something that we all need to think about because it's something our ancestors always did, but we've gotten out of the habit.
Yeah. And what I learned from my experience here building the first geothermal greenhouse, which is about zone 8, 9. So it never falls below 32 because of the amount of thermal mass of water in there. It stays 32 at the low, even if it's minus 30 out. And so what we do in December and January is we go in there, we cut everything out, we mulch it with the green mulch, all the fall crop, and then we plant at Christmas. We plant kale, we plant cilantro, we plant beetroot, we plant bok choy. Does amazing. Bok choy, we left that out. Bok choy can grow in the snow at 20 degrees if you get that sprouted, and it's this succulent thing that you're like, how are you alive? Because it has antifreeze that's good for you. And the bok choy, by the time it's February and March, you're running out of potatoes. All of your winter squash is like deflating and the skin is so hard you got to cut it with a hatchet or something like that. You're running out of your storage. But then the greenhouse has got all these things. And so you can get in there, and these are the gap crops. And then by the time you're about to plant for spring, you have the beets. You can harvest everything. You can pull it all out. You can green mulch it. You can give it to your chickens that have been looking for fresh food all winter, especially in an area like I am. And so it's very beneficial. Anyone could do it. You could do it in an area where it's a 73-day growing season like where I live. You could do it anywhere. So, and it's just, and it gives you that added bonus of extra nutrition during the flu season and the new COVID season and so on and so forth that you need for the extra vitamin D, the zinc, and the nutrients you need to prevent the virus from spreading in your body. I mean, it's that simple. If you stay nutrient dense, you win from the rip. You will not get sick, period.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. I've really that's what I've been seeing, that it's really about keeping your nutrition up, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C. And those are just things that come from living an abundant, robust, outside in nature life. And that's what humans are like. That's the thing, is we've created a system, or a bunch of systems that prevent us from doing the things that make humans healthy. We've pulled ourselves out of the forests. We've taken ourselves away from the sunlight. We've put ourselves on these rubber mats that were attached to our feet to separate ourselves from the electrical charge of the earth, and everything's bioelectric. That's what the soil science is arriving at now, which is so phenomenal. It's connecting everything, and we now are arriving back at what we lost. And so I'm really excited because this is something that people are going to do. This is something that I have people write me every single day about them using this book, which is free on my website, one of my courses, one of my free courses. I mean, invariably, one or many of those things I'm written about every single day about how it's changed their lives. And it's this transformative nature of this information, of these actions, really, right? Because it's just, this information can just sit there and not do anything. It's the actions that you take in your life that make the difference for you. And they've changed my life. And that's why I'm here to share this with you, because that it's an invitation to a completely new health, completely new mindset, level of safety, and just, it's amazing. And I want to live in that world. I want more people to live in that world with me. And that's why the site that I'm putting together, it's going to be very similar to what you're doing. I'm a little bit behind because we just have had only a year on this site, and it had so much overgrowth, so much damage. But it's incredible to see how nature is excited, how things that would take tens of thousands of dollars to remove these invasive species are suddenly being inoculated with fungi, and they're just dying right in front of me, and dozens of new species are just erupting out of the ground that are all indigenous, that are replacing the invasives. Everything's coming back, and everyone can do this. I just went out there with a knife and chopped down the invasive species and threw some seeds on the ground.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, you can check
And
out
so,
that video right here. It's your last video 3 days ago, right? Chop and drop permaculture.
absolutely, the transformation.
Yes.
And it just took time. It took a little bit of effort and time, and that's what we got to put in. We got to put in this effort now, and then we just reap the rewards for years, and it gets sweeter and sweeter.
Well, let's talk about how sweet it gets. The reason I'm really pushing this Mennonite sorghum is not because of the cyanide content and you can off your neighbor, but or the deer. It's more important that in areas where I live, like I just bought 12 buckets and 12 tree taps because I was all gung ho to try to tap some non-maple trees along my river. And it turns out that they weren't flowing sap, so I couldn't tap them. We're in a region where you can't flow sap unless you actually can grow maples. Almost nobody can grow maples here. We're going to try next year and grow some maples for maybe a 10 or 20 year forward harvest. But we can't do it. What can we do? So you just blew my mind. I can grow a whole quarter acre of sorghum and simply juice it. All I need is a roller, and I juice the stalks, and I can make my own syrup. And it's not going to be maple syrup, but it's going to
Yes.
be very close. And I could acquire a taste of sorghum syrup, and then we can use it on pancakes or whatever we want. So it's definitely an option. There are options in places where you think there are no options. That's what we're trying to tell you. And it's literally mind blowing. And so I want to blow your mind. This is going to be a grand prize giveaway. I'm going to give this away. I'm going to give away anybody 10 crops of their choice. You just write it down. You're the winner. And I'm going to send you the heirloom crops of that variety that you want. And then I'm also going to send you 10 crops that you should have asked for because you're going to tell me where you live and what zone you live in. And then you're going to actually have the real crops you need with the crops you asked for. So you're going to get 20 packs of seeds on this giveaway. And it's the first person that can spell my name, first name and last name correctly, the Christian name on my birth certificate in the chat. Do it now. And I know if you
Oh my
didn't,
God.
yeah, you've read my scientific papers and you know about permaculture and you want these seeds. So my first name and last name spelled correctly. Go. Done it. Boom. It's done. All right. They won. And we're going to wrap this up, Matt. So what do you want to end with?
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited and honored to participate in this because your heart is so true. I mean, you go out there, you share these seeds, you want to give back to the community, you're going to give back to your community, all this, not back, but give to your community, all this food that I'm so excited to be part of that. And that's what this really is. This is about giving to the future, giving to the community, giving to the system so that we can have a more abundant life everywhere all the time, because we have that ability. We just need to keep spreading this. And so that's why I highly recommend going to thepermaculturestudent.com, checking out the free ebooks, the free courses, all the resources. If you want someone to answer all your questions as you go through it, as you build these things, join one of my courses. That's what we do. We make sure that you get everything. If you have gardening questions, join one of my courses. We'll answer all your questions as you do it, because we need to get everyone into this, because this is your health. This is your future. This is, your peace of mind. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to share that.
Yeah, Matt, you're awesome. Always a pleasure to have on. And don't go away when I close up the video here. We need to talk about the Crestone Energy Fair, okay? Because there are people coming together, and
Okay.
we have a new format, and we're really bringing together the idea of micro community. And this is the wave of the future, where not only are the micro communities the thing of the future, but being able to share it in a multi-dimensional way worldwide, what each micro community is doing will add to that educational process and bring us up so quickly into this high abundance realm by sharing knowledge and breakthroughs from community to community, just like we do on the show tonight. I mentioned the nitrogen fixing and or I mentioned something and it blew your mind. I don't remember what it was. I think I just said cucumbers, and you were like, wow, cucumbers up a corn stalk or whatever it is. It's like something that I think that everyone knows, and it's just so simple, but you don't know, or you know what I mean? It's just like we have to have these discussions
Yeah.
or it's never going to happen.
Yes.
All right, so let's get to
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I feel like this is the reason.
go ahead, please go.
I was saying this is the reason why everything's changing, because we have these lateral conversations where 20 years ago, they wouldn't have given us airtime. 20 years ago, they wouldn't have allowed us to congregate. But now we can get these truths out. Now we can reach each other and show video, pictures, and now we can even access, a lot of the scientific research proving these things are true that we never could access before. I just feel so privileged to be alive at a time period where human beings are getting back to what matters, getting back to what makes us human in the first place. And yeah, it's gonna be an amazing year. I feel like, for the people that embrace permaculture and start a garden.
Yeah, and if we can get you out to the Crestone Energy Fair in mid-August to maybe give one of the keynote discussions, I think we would be very happy to do that. And so let's talk about that after we're done here. Guys, if you don't know Matt Powers, I'm going to go over it again. You can find him on Twitter at permaculture123, Matt Powers. Matt Powers at permaculture123 on Twitter. He's at Matt Powers, the permaculture student, on YouTube. And the first time I started talking to Matt, he had like, I don't know, 3.56K subs. 3,000 subs. He's at 14,000. So something is going right. And 1,000 a month are subscribing. Let's keep it up. Subscribe to the channel now. Let's blow up Matt Powers. He is providing solutions to the problem. We love you, Matt.
Much love. Thank you so much, Diamond.
That's boom.